Today, we have one of Australia's most successful acting exports. I'm Penny Lane and welcome to In the Driver's Seat. From Lord of the Rings to defending the gates of fire, Dave Wenham is a face few people wouldn't recognise, and he's about to rejuvenate a 20-year-old character in his new movie, Spit, the sequel to the cult film Getting Square. Welcome to the show, Mr. David Wenham.
Hey Penny, good to be with you.
Hello, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Oh. Now tell me about your character, Johnny Spit Spiteri. Spit first appeared on our screens 20 years ago. Why the sequel now?
It's interesting actually, 20 years ago we never thought that we'd be revisiting this territory again. But over time, as you mentioned, this film has become a bit of a cult classic, and the character of Johnny Spiteri has become the character that people ask me about more than any other character. They quote lines to me, etc. So, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago, myself, the director and the writer, just sort of played around with the idea of Johnny coming back. And it's taken 10 years, but he is finally back.
Well, I'm very happy that he is. Is there any of you, like actual David, in Spiteri?
Probably. Well, the thing about him is that we've got a few differences. Key differences are in Getting Square, he was a junkie, a heroin addict, and he was a small-time criminal. So they're the differences. I don't share that.
Hopefully.
However, his sense of humour, I think, is something that is shared between myself and Johnny. Not that he's aware of himself being funny, but the humour that comes out of Johnny Spiteri it's silly humour. It's ridiculous, but it's humour that people really relate to and love, and it's like that was the hook for me.
I think it's a brilliant sense of humour. That's definitely my sense of humour. Now, tell me, how did you get into acting?
I suppose, in short, I was the typical really naughty boy at school.
Was you?
Yeah, I was. I spent most of my early schooling outside the classroom, because the teachers just couldn't, they were fearful of what I may do when I was in the classroom. And what happened was there was a parent-teacher night once, and as this particular teacher was crossing the playground, his name was Peter Hume, I said, "Oh, you're looking forward to parent-teacher night tonight, are you?" And he said, yes, I am. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be pretty horrendous, the outcome of this. And he sat my parents down, he said, "Look, I have the class in the palm of my hands, and then all of a sudden your son will do or say something, and I lose the class," and they burst out laughing, and I just cannot control them. And he said, "Have you ever thought about sending your son to acting classes?" And so the very next Saturday, I was actually enrolled in a drama school. I was about 14 at the time, and that was the same place that I met Nicole Kidman at that place when we were both about the same age as well. So it really was because of the insight of a teacher who recognised something, that very early on he identified something, and look, I'm forever grateful for the fact that he did that.
Isn't that amazing that a teacher could do that? Because you could have been just classified as the naughty kid, and
Yeah, I could have been completely punished, and I was a lot. Every day I'd get the strap. Those are the days when you got belted. And I would get, 6 of the best most days, or I'd get detention, or I'd be out of the classroom. But he could see something within me, and that could be, fertilised and allowed to grow and flourish and turn into something really positive. So truthfully, it's because of that man. And then my parents as well. My parents weren't very wealthy at all. I was the last of 7 children, so there wasn't much money. But they encouraged my acting career. And my father used to go to the universities in Sydney at the time, Sydney University Uni, New South Wales University. They used to have book sales every 2 years. And my father used to go along with cardboard boxes, and to fill a box was $2 back then. And he'd get all these books on plays or films or theatre or drama and bring them home. So I gathered the most extensive resource library on acting and drama from a very young age, thanks to, my parents.
Wow, that's an amazing story. What a great support you've had. But even if you got that by chance, you don't keep it by chance. So all that hard work and everything you've done is still, the credit's all on you. I really believe that. At that time, did you have any particular role models in the acting world?
Um, yeah, mainly British ones actually, because that was what I was exposed to on television. My parents used to watch, the ABC in Australia, which had a lot of British programs. Oh, characters actors that played lots of different characters. Like Peter Sellers was somebody who was a big influence on me. Who was also one of the goons. Well, Spike Milligan. Lots of people actually. And in Australia, there was a character that was on television called Norman Gunston. He was
Okay.
created by Gary McDonald. That character of Norman Gunston really, really, really influenced me actually in how to be completely organic and spontaneous and surprise people, subvert people's expectations.
And you've played some incredible in characters yourself. Which ones did you enjoy the most?
Oh, it's a tricky one. I've got to say, there's a lot. I've been really lucky throughout my career. This one, Johnny Spiteri, is probably right up the top. And then, to work in big movies like Lord of the Rings and 300 or Pirates of the Caribbean, they're fantastic. And Lord of the Rings especially is like, that's a special project to have been involved in. It's like I count myself very lucky. And then there's films that some people mightn't have seen, but to me they were really, really special. There was a film that I did called Molokai. Some places it's called Father Damien, and I played a Belgian priest who went to Hawaii in the 1800s and volunteered to work with people who suffered from leprosy. And that film's pretty extraordinary, actually, and that's one I'm proud of. There's a lot. I've been very, very fortunate along the way to have some incredible opportunities.
Yeah, there really has been some amazing movies that you've been in. In 300, when you played Dilios, you had to go and undergo this massive physical transformation. How hard was that? And did your wife see you as a sex symbol then? Or does she still now?
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I'd have to ask her. How intense was it? Yeah, extremely intense, actually. Extremely intense. Before I went, it was shot in Montreal. We were there for about 6 months, I think. And once I got the role, before I left for Montreal, I trained like crazy to get myself as fit as possible. And I ate like crazy as well. I did God knows how many eggs and protein shakes and whatever. And I got there, and the guy who trained us, Mark Twice, an amazing man who trained the Navy SEALs in the States, literally everything I was doing was essentially what he didn't want happening. Our diet was exactly the opposite. We ate very, very little. We had for breakfast, we had a bowl of ricotta cheese. Our snack was an almond. We had one piece of protein for lunch and a few vegetables, so it was really minimal. And his whole idea was actually to to find the muscles within you. So you look very, very defined as opposed to massively bulking up. And a lot of that bulk anyhow is just fluid.
Right, I didn't even know that. And what was it like acting in front of just like a massive green screen with no background, nothing else, just you and the green screen?
Well, when I first got the role, I went and bought the graphic novel on which it's based, and I opened up the first page, and I saw my character Dilios there, and he's this huge man with a great big beard, and he's completely in the nude over a fire with his hands over it like this, and I'm thinking, oh, what have I got myself into? And so then I hadn't spoken to Zack Snyder, the director, and I got on the phone with him, and he said, "Do you have any questions?" And I said, "Yeah, I have one." I said, "Look, I've seen the graphic novel, and I see all we're wearing, if we're not in the nude, is like essentially a pair of leather underpants." I said, "How's that going to go down filming in the middle of winter in Montreal when the temperature's like about minus 25? He laughed for about 5 minutes. And then he said, "You don't have to worry because it's all in a studio in front of a green screen."
Oh, so you're actually relieved.
Yeah, oh, God, yeah. But to answer your question, how difficult it was, on that movie, not really, because everything we did was real. All the dialogue was with fellow actors, so you can act and react with each other. And all the fight scenes were 100% real with ourselves, with all the stunt guys, real swords and spears and shields. That was all real. The green screen was only there for the environment that was put in afterwards. So with that, it was great because we really did fight. We really did have conversations with each other. It's only when you have to imagine creatures coming at you from absolutely nowhere and how you react to those invisible creatures, that's when it becomes a little bit silly.
Well, you did a brilliant, brilliant job. How, as an actor, do you gauge success? Like, is it the awards? Is it the audience numbers? Is it the revenue that films make? Like, how do you feel successful in yourself?
Well, I think that is an individual question. For me, it's how satisfied I feel creatively.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my measure of success, because the only reason I got into this business is because I love creating. I love what I do. It's an art. It's a craft. So that's the thing that fires me. I'm never happier, except when I'm with my family, than when I'm actually on a film set or on a stage creating, playing with a character. So my measure of success is when I've created a character or been in a production that I think, you know what, that's probably the best it could ever be. So on stage, for example, I played Cyrano de Bergerac a long time ago. And over that whole run, every night I was just aiming for the perfect performance. And I've got to say, once it occurred, and it's like, I think that's probably the only time I've ever been in a play where I thought everything was just exactly the way it should have been. And the response from the audience was reflected that as well. It was like, instantly there was a standing ovation at the end of the performance, and it's like, yeah, that's why you do it. That, to me, that's the measure of success.
Yeah, that's really good values, and it really shows your integrity. Now, David, AI is a crazy thing now, and how do you see that affecting the acting industry?
Oh, it's a really tricky one. Yeah, at the moment I don't know, but I've got to be honest. I try to be glass half full with all of this stuff. I'm fearful, I must be honest.
Yeah.
Especially on the first port of call in terms of script writing, because there's obviously things like ChatGPT and whatever that can be of huge assistance to writing stories or creating stuff. Who knows if it's ever going to replace the creative impulse of humans? I don't know, but I think as the first footstep as to AI's use within the industry and the fact that could it or could it not replace people, that's a dangerous one, I think. In terms of post-production and special effects and whatever, brilliant. It's a great tool that we should embrace. But I think within any area, whether it be film and television or medicine or education, as long as the humans are in control of the machine, I think that's fine. But as soon as we lose control of that, and it's the machines that are actually generating things ahead of us, that's when we're into really scary territory.
We've got to start to worry. I can't believe we're almost out of time. So finally, can you see Spit making a third appearance, thongs and all, and maybe this time even with a little bit of bus fare?
Maybe. Well, truthfully, I think the only time that he possibly could come back is in another 20 years, and he could be in an aged care facility. And I think that he would create and he could create a little bit of havoc in there. Maybe he could fall in love finally in the aged care facility.
That would be lovely. David, it's been such an honour. Thank you so much for joining us on In the Driver's Seat. Absolutely thrilled to get to talk to you. We'll see you soon.
An absolute pleasure. Good on you, Penny. Cheers.
In the Driver's Seat is brought to you by the Perfect Cosmetics Company. This is Ticker, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Ticker. We'll have more in just a few minutes.